meeting of the Mayor and City Council of Roswell. I would like to invite the chef and owner of my favorite Cajun restaurant to come forward, Mark and Ruth Wegman, to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming tonight. Oh, the council wants their photo op with the Wegmans and Adele. So, council, if we would join them. Up here.
Right up here.
In front of the flag. No, let's put them in front of the flag. I would like to call upon Councilmember Becky Wynn. She's had a rough 2 years, but every now and then she gets to have a great night, and this is one of those.
Yes, sir, it is. I mean, this is one of the times that you're going, oh, gosh, I'm just so glad that I'm in this city. Chief Spencer. He would step forward. I almost didn't recognize the chief. He looks so good. He cleans up really well. This is, I think, one of the highlights since I've been on council, and I'm being very serious about this. Chief Spencer was recognized as the Fire Chief of the Year by the Georgia Association of Fire Chiefs. Chief Spencer started with us in 1975, excuse me. He was appointed fire chief in 2004. And I got all this stuff to read, but I just want to say we are just so honored and grateful to have you as our fire chief. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
I thought you'd say more than that.
Well, okay. You know, I am not...
38 years is worth more than that, I think. See, the longer you talk, the less I have to.
But the thing is, I'm not Stu Mooring. I mean, if I have Stu up here, we could go all night long.
Kay Love would like to add some more.
But anyway, I would like to say that he is responsible for 7 fire stations, and we average about 7,000 calls a year. And what a lot of people don't understand is that we have a part-time fire department. It's not a full-time. So juggling the schedules, juggling to make sure that all of our firehouses are covered and that our citizens are safe is a daunting task. And Chief Spencer has been there every step of the way, and we really do appreciate you.
I'd just like to add a little bit about, first, congratulations, Chief Spencer. I'm very proud to be part of the management team along with you. A little bit about the process. Nominations were taken for Fire Chief of the Year, and a panel of, or committee or a panel evaluated those nominations. And one of the things that was required with the nominations was for nominees, their biography, and for folks to tell a little bit about what Chief Spencer has done. And it was a very lengthy, Councilmember Wynn didn't read everything, but it was a very lengthy submission, and many of the things that we're most proud of here in Roswell are things that Chief Spencer has been a part of, not only as a part-time firefighter over the years, but certainly as our chief. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if somebody, I'd like to see if any of the council members.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick on you tonight, really.
Come on, why you won't be different?
I've known you for a long time, no doubt about it. And I remember when you became the big cheese. In fact, I was involved in you becoming the big cheese, and you've done a great job. I just want to say thank you on behalf of the citizens. And we are, as Becky said, we are very, very proud to have you as our chief and the chief of the year for the state of Georgia. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Let's have a hand for the chief. I've got a meeting to get out of the way. I would like all the firemen to come forward in front of the dais and stand with the chief, and my council would like to join him too in a photo. So I'm not sure where we get this photo, but all the firemen come forward. Let's hear it for our firemen. Let's for the firemen. Make sure you get
Yes. All right, we're going to do this by Photoshop. There we go. Okay, we're going to be good. Congratulations.
All right, thank you. One more hand. Becky Wynn, I think you've got another award to announce.
Yeah, this is really great, too. I just love doing these things. Really, this is Julie Breckbill, even though it's with the city police department. The city of Roswell was recognized as with a Silver Circle Award from the City County Communications and Marketing Association for the city's police recruitment video. And again, I think we're very lucky and honored to have someone of Julie's creativity and expertise to be on our staff.
Well,
You've done a great job on everything, not only this, but everything that you put out for the city is absolutely fantastic. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Becky. I'd like Amy Cargus and Zach Frommer to come up. This is a video that Community Relations produced for the police department in conjunction with the folks in the Community Relations Office of the police department, which is Zach, Lisa Holland, and Aaron Johnson, and LaWanda Cornegay. So those guys were a big part of this, and we would like to show you the video. This video is a recruitment video for the police department that they take out, that's on YouTube, that they take out to recruit police officers when they go to colleges, or where else, Zach?
You name it.
Everywhere. Everywhere. So we would like to show that video. Can they cue that up?
Honest, professional, responsible, courageous, compassionate, diligent. These are the core values of the Roswell Police Department. We seek and accept only best candidates. Are you ready for the challenge? From the police academy to leadership development to advanced tactical training, we supply our officers with the tools they need to be successful, including a take-home car and all the needed gear. Unlike some agencies, we give you every opportunity to improve, advance, and excel as an individual while working as a member of our internationally accredited agency. With the Roswell Police Department, you have the opportunity to serve in a variety of special units, including criminal investigations, traffic enforcement, crime scene processing, community relations, K-9, and the DUI task force. Elite teams seek elite officers. Once you're a Roswell police officer, you can take the next step in serving your community by earning a spot on an elite team like North Fulton SWAT, Mobile Field Force, Crisis Negotiation Team, or a position with a federal task force like DEA or HIDA. As a member of the Roswell Police Department, you'll be part of a thriving, diverse city located north of Atlanta. Here, community policing isn't just a catchphrase. It's part of our core mission. Officers are empowered to improve our neighborhoods every day, from identifying potential criminal hotspots to reaching out to local business leaders. We make decisions that make a difference. A career in law enforcement. It's demanding, it's rewarding, and it's not for everybody. But if you've got the integrity, motivation, and capability to serve and protect, then start your career with the best. Start with the Roswell Police.
Let's have a hand for that video. Great job.
The 3CMA is a great organization that the city belongs to. It's communicators from across the country that work in government. And government public relations and community relations is a little unique form of public relations as to other forms of that. And these two folks had a huge part in making this video. Amy shot it and edited it. It was written by these two, and I just think they did a great job. They went up against some really good videos from across the country, and they won the Silver Circle Award. So I wanted to commend them on their effort. Thank you.
One more hand for these folks. Thank you. Next, I'd like to call upon Councilman Rich DiPolito for a recognition in his department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is another well-deserved recognition for Marley Press. Marley, if you'd come forward. Marley has gone through some training of her own, maybe not as intense as what we just saw in the video, but pretty intense.
She put up for council with how many years, Marley?
10 and a half.
That was training.
2 years, 5 months.
I challenge anybody in the police department to tolerate my council that long.
That's a pretty tough assignment. But this is recognition for Marley Press for receiving the Georgia Municipal Clerks Certification at the 2013 Annual Georgia Municipal Clerks Conference. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Councilmember DiPolito. I do want to take just a few minutes to congratulate Marley. The certificate program that she went through for the municipal clerks was put together by the Georgia Municipal Association, the Georgia Municipal Clerks, and UGA, the Carl Vinson Institute of Government. So it's more than just a one-topic course. It's a course that goes through what it takes to be a clerk, but it also is very intense in management and different styles of management and how to manage sometimes a group of elected officials if need be, and I think she has learned that over the years and done a really good job. Marley committed to going through this just as quickly as she could once she became the clerk, and I don't think there was a course that was offered that she didn't find the time to go and get it and excel in those courses. So we're very proud of Marley. And with that, I would love to present with her the certificate for municipal clerk that she received at their conference. So, Marley.
Thank you.
Let's have a hand for Marley. Congratulations, Marley.
Marley, would you like to say a few words and recognize your husband? I notice he's in the audience.
Yes, my husband actually came tonight. He's had to tolerate me as I go to all these conferences, but I I have learned a lot, and every day I learn from the city. There's not a day that goes by that I have found that I haven't learned something new. So it's not just in the classes, but also as being the clerk, there is not one day that I come in here with a new question that I have not known the answer to before. So I've really enjoyed it, and I hope to keep enjoying it, and I hope to keep helping you all, and I hope to keep helping us get through all the elections coming up. And I just appreciate the city. I appreciate everybody I work for.
Thank you, Marley. This time I'll call upon Councilman Eigelhart for an award in his department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have the recognition for receiving the Outstanding Civil Engineering Award for Small Projects. And Mr. Moore is going to tell us about that, but it is for the Michael J. Leonard Groundwater Filtration Plant Project, and it's very unique that we would have someone that is actually alive that we would have named a building for, and even more unique, they would actually be here in person for receiving an award about the building for which he's named.
Very much alive. Mike gave us a scare about 5 years ago, but he's doing great. And anyway, we're very proud to let you know about the recognition we've received from the American Society of Civil Engineers. They do a design competition in 3 categories, and we won for the Small Project of the Year. And it has to do with factors such as sustainability, the uniqueness and aesthetic quality of the building, and the complexity of the work that had to go into it. We won the award for the building and the pump station and so forth, but I believe that it really had to do with the whole concept that Mike brought to us of we could find groundwater in the Piedmont. That's an uncommon thing to, I mean, certainly you can build a household well, but to find a well that's adequate to supply municipal systems was something that, because of Mike's unique background and the people that he knows, we were able to hire some geologists that found this. So it's entirely fitting that the building is named in honor of Mike, and he is here tonight. Alice Champagne would be here, but she is tonight in Guatemala building wells for poor people there. And so I just want to say thank you to the Society of Civil Engineers, and I'm going to lift this up as soon as I get my fingers under it. Here is the plaque, and audience. Congratulations,
David and I were talking about his last job. We receive so many awards in Roswell that sometimes we overlook the importance of these. But it is a validation that we have the best employees that can be found anywhere. I don't know how we attract so many good people, and Lord knows I don't know how we keep them. But Kay, and I want to appreciate you and Stu, for bringing good people to the city of Roswell, and they really do make my job and the job of this council easy, and they make us look good. And congratulations on the award, and congratulations on all the good work that you do, Mike Leonard, and best water in Roswell. And best Roswell in the state. Let me expand that.
Well, you do understand, Mr. Mayor, this is a team effort, and every one of you and every one of us, that's what it's all about.
Thank you, sir. One more hand for Mike Leonard. Before I get to the Roswell Business Alliance, I have a Boy Scout in the back. I always make Boy Scouts come forward and introduce themselves, young man. So if you'll come forward to the microphone and tell us which troop you're with, your name, and what brings you here tonight. Boy Scouts over here. Bring all the Boy Scouts come forward. Y'all are hiding back there. I couldn't see your uniforms. Yes, Troop 1134, you came first. You get to go first.
Hi.
Microphone.
Okay.
This is part of public speaking merit badge.
Hi, I'm Michael Diamond, and I'm a first-class scout with Troop 1134. It's over at St. Peter's Chanel.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Matthew Ely. I'm first class, and I'm from Troop 985.
I'm Seth Youngstrom. I'm first class, and I'm from Troop 985.
Ben Youngstrom, Star Scout, Troop 985.
I'm Danny Ely. I'm a first class scout, and I'm from Troop 985.
Gentlemen, it's good to have you here tonight. Councilman Orleans and Councilman DiPolito were both Life Scouts. Councilmember Price is a proud mother of an Eagle Scout. And I was with Troop 87 in Roswell, and my brother and I were both Eagle Scouts there, so you're in good company. Thank you for coming here tonight. Let's have a hand for the Boy Scouts. Thank you, gentlemen. You may retire. Thank you. This time, I'm not sure they've won an award yet, but they've won us businesses and jobs, and when they start giving out awards for promoters of Roswell, this group will win a lot of those awards.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, Mayor, 2 years ago tonight, you had the foresight to give our organization, the Roswell Business Alliance, life. You put wind under our sails. This organization, which was founded under the umbrella of the Convention and Visitors Bureau's Board of Directors, was the official organization as of October 2011, to do marketing and market businesses within the city. Officially, we launched in January 2012, and in October of 2012, the RBA began to expand its mission. In order to undertake that mission, we developed the economic development program that you know today. In February 2013, the CVB and the RBA Board of Directors presented to Mayor and Council the Strategic Economic Development Plan, a 122-page document that we worked 6 months to consolidate and make a 4-year plan into 17 pages. Those business people put together a plan that's being enacted now. This 4-year plan started July 1st, 2013. We contracted to perform the economic development activities that were guided by the SEDP. We told you we would come back and tell you what was happening, not just at ribbon cuttings and not just in the paper, but let you know what our report card is. This is our end of our first quarter, and there's been significant growth. I will tell you, based on the checks and balances that we have with the city, there are 163 new businesses that have license and that are operating within the city in July, August, and September, increasing the total number of businesses in the city to over 5,700 licensed businesses. We had a monumental event happen last month in September. I have to say, I said it a little too quick on August 28th, but we went over the top with the 100th Certified Opportunity Zone business. We have added 69 businesses to that certification in the last 9 months. And in this quarter alone, July, August, and September, we added 664 jobs to the city of Roswell. September was a record-breaking month for the RBA, with renewing partners and total new partnerships. We had 51 new partners. We have over 540 paid partners. In addition to producing significant economic activity, a crucial part of our 2014 goal was to grow up and be real deal. It's not in the script. Hundreds of hours have been poured into by volunteers and staff to establish, and by invested people in this community, to establish what the CVB Board of Directors has guided us to establish a fresh new professional brand for our entity. Please direct your attention to your monitor and to the screen as we reveal the future of Roswell Business Alliance.
Good job. Steve Stout, you continue to exceed all expectations, so your organization is phenomenal.
Well, thank you. Let me finish on these couple comments. The new logo and tagline, as you just saw, and you see on your monitor, and name, we showcase and demonstrate the organization that we represent today. The change allows us to better communicate who we are, what our mission is, and where our organization is headed. Our tagline, Building Business, Connecting Community, emphasizes on the focus of business retention and the expansion of a current business, as well as the connection between a strong business environment and a healthy, thriving community. The new look will be implemented over the course of the next few months and will be in full effect when the organization launches its new website in the spring of 2014. I want to take this opportunity to tell you that we're here to serve the citizens of Roswell. Our team is all Roswell citizens, and we're proud of that. I want to introduce one key component to our organization is volunteers. And tonight, I introduce to you our Community Connectors. This is a team of volunteers that will be meeting and greeting new businesses and telling them about the opportunities that they face and what a great environment they are in Roswell. And if you'll give me 2 seconds, I'll put this list up. Jason Bates, if you'll stand, please. Jason's an Edward Jones volunteer and owner here in Roswell. These are all Roswell businesses. Devin Michael Martino, Keller Williams, Kevin Bamford with Bank of North Georgia.
Keep clapping to say things, because we're clapping out.
Oh, clapping over to Kevin Bamford with Bank of North Georgia, and Karen Price, who's not able to attend tonight. Also with us tonight is our team, our RBA former RBA team as of tonight. The press releases are going out as we speak. Our Roswell Inc. team, Doreen Scasatelli with Business Development and Partnership, Becky Hawkins with Communications.
Stand up.
Stand up. Daryl Weaver with our Outreach and Economic Development, Karen Greiner and Stephanie Robertson with our team of Partnerships, and Tom Ladow, who's our mentor. With us tonight, also with us is Ken Davis and Paula Delia from our board, and Jessica Diamond,
Let's have
our
one more
intern.
hand for this, folks. Thank you.
We thank you for your support, and we couldn't do it without the staff. Mr. Mayor, your comments are well received. This staff goes above and beyond, and I can tell you, one of your leading economic development departments in this town is the fire department, and they're constantly on us, giving us opportunities and giving us tips on what's happening with space. So we appreciate that. Thank you for all you do.
I want to recognize any council members who want to say any good words. I know Nancy Diamond was the champion for this organization. I want to call upon her.
This is awesome. I don't even know what to say. I have not seen the presentation, and I'm so excited. You know, the branding of Roswell in general is something that I'm really passionate about, and this is well beyond anything we could have dreamt, and I just thank all of you. I know you work long hours, and, you know, from the days you were working out of a bag, and now you're in an office, like you have chairs, and you're moving right up into the big time, but this is a beautiful thing. Thank you, Henderson Shapiro Peck. I'm sorry, I didn't say that right. Henderson Shapiro Peck. It's a very impressive piece of art. It's just wonderful. I'm very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Orleans.
You know, again, from inception and or concept, really, to talking about an inception and volunteering originally, some of the people, and then actually working at it and being hired and the organization kicking off, you've come a long way. You've done, I think, above and beyond what we even thought might be happening. So I just want to say I appreciate everything you guys are doing for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman DiPolito.
I love the new logo and the tagline. It's awesome. Great job. And I like the new focus on community. I think that's perfect. So that's right where you all need to be. From a business standpoint, being very involved in the business community, I can tell you there has just been a huge groundswell in Roswell. There was a sea change about a year and a half ago. And the business community just realized, all right, Roswell's open for business. And I know that's what you all were looking to accomplish. That's what we were hoping you would accomplish. And I think you have. And you go out into the community now and people realize this is a great place to do business. The local community embraces us. The city government embraces us. There's an organization there that's promoting, and they want us there, and they're looking to help. Every time we have a ribbon cutting, every time we go out into the community, people are saying, you know what, this is a great place. We're getting a lot of help. People are reaching out to us. They're helping us grow our business. I just think it's great. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Price. Councilmember Price.
Thank you, Steve, and all your team for what you've brought to Roswell. It's been an interesting ride as you've moved forward and done some things we never thought could happen this quickly, so it's absolutely great. But just to clarify, does RBA still exist?
RBA is no longer.
RBA is gone.
Tonight.
Okay.
So it's Roswell, Inc.
Roswell, Inc.
Does Inc. stand for anything, or just Inc.?
It stands for Connecting Community and Building Business.
Absolutely. That's what it stands for.
So it's a word.
It's a word.
It's a word, not a
Roswell, Inc.
Anything else. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One more hand for Roswell, Inc.
Thank you.
Get to know the new name. All right, we're back to business now. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Orleans. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your hands. That's unanimous. Y'all can stay if you wish, but we are not offended if you go back there and start calling businesses and generating more leads for Roswell. Next on the agenda, I'd like to call liaison to the Administrative and Finance Department, Councilmember Rich DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is approval of a resolution to amend the appointment list of the standby judges for the City of Roswell Municipal Court. And Mr. Fisher is going to tell us about this.
Thank you, Councilmember DiPolito. The last time we came and we started looking at doing some of the standby judges, there was one other name that was brought up at that time, Judge Roy Roberts, and it was presented that we would go out and check with anybody first to make sure that they were amenable to being put on the list. He was, and since that time, there's been a great challenge in finding judges that can come in and sit on particular days. It just all depends on what their schedules are, what their caseloads are in their other businesses and other areas of interest. So we have actually gone out and contacted others that could also be placed on the list by resolution, because we need you all to approve anybody that we contact. So you have before you a list of a total of 9 other people, including Judge Roy Roberts, that are qualified and willing to be put on our standby list if we need to contact them to be able to sit for our municipal court. So we would ask that you would approve that resolution so we can have a bigger pool, if you will, or database of judges that we can contact.
Do we have a motion? Question first. Councilmember Price.
So that means in addition to our previous 6, this is an additional 9?
Yes, ma'am, that's
So
correct.
That's 15.
That's correct.
Total standby judges.
Correct.
And how were they selected, or what qualifications do they have?
They all fell within the qualifications of what we need for a municipal judge. I know David has those qualifications.
They are all currently sitting judges for other jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Other questions? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilman DiPolito for approval. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Price. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
Next item is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting to provide consultative services for the creation and implementation of a priority-based budgeting program for the City of Roswell in the amount of $36,500 plus reimbursable expenses. This item is presented by our budget manager, Ryan Luckett.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for your approval to contract with the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting to assist the city in implementing a priority-based budgeting program. As you might remember from our committee meetings, priority-based budgeting is a process that seeks to align our city services and programs with the priorities of the mayor and city council as well as the community. Priority-based budgeting is recognized as a best practice for local governments by both the Government Finance Officers Association as well as the International City County Management Association. The Center for Priority-Based Budgeting, which is the organization we're requesting approval to work with, has implemented this approach in over 40 communities across the country, all sizes of communities, some of which share some characteristics with the City of Roswell, such as being a AAA bond-rated city. As you might remember, priority-based budgeting begins with the priorities as established by the Mayor and City Council. So that would be our vision, mission, and strategies. Priority-based budgeting is comprehensive in nature in that it looks at the programs, all programs and services of the city. So it asks that question of, why are we in the business of providing this particular service, and tries to make sure that those services that we're providing are best aligned with those priorities that have been established by the mayor and city council. By aligning the city programs and services with the overall strategic direction of the city, priority-based budgeting allows for comparisons of programs across departments. So whereas it might have been challenging in the past to compare a program within the fire department to a program in community development, this approach allows us to evaluate those two programs on an equal playing field and be able to provide you with the best information possible. Priority-based budgeting also ensures that we are achieving the intended results. One of the first steps in the process is determining the results that we intend to achieve as a city, and then following with those programs and services that best achieve those results. Implementation of the process is about a 5 to 6 month long process and would be completed in time for the next budget. The contract would allow city staff to work with the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting. Their role would be simply to provide facilitation, training, guidance, and overall expertise in implementing a program here in Roswell. As was mentioned, the contract is an amount not to exceed $36,500, as well as some reimbursable expenses. And I'm available for any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Did the council have any questions? Councilmember Price.
Do we have a cap on these reimbursable expenses?
The contract would have 2 trips, on-site visits basically. So it would be the travel-related expenses for those 2 on-site visits.
From where?
They are headquartered in Denver, Colorado.
And how many people would it be?
Most likely no more than 3 individuals.
So in addition to this $36,500, we would have 2 trips for 3 people from Denver to Atlanta and expenses while they're here.
That's correct.
That are an undetermined amount.
It would just be reimbursable for whatever the travel expenses would be.
Ms. Love, do you wish to add to that?
Councilmember Price, depending on when they come, we can't determine the exact amount. If there's a desire to put a cap on the reimbursables, then we can certainly do that, but not knowing what airfare may be or what the hotel rate may be. 3 may come for 1 trip, 2 persons may come for the second trip. If they're on another assignment, airfare could be reduced somewhat if they're coming from another location. So there's no way to know if there is a desire to cap that. Then we could certainly take a look at that as well, but they are reimbursable. They would be paid out by the company and then reimbursed by the city.
Other questions? Councilmember Diamond.
Ryan, I'm assuming this will give us a lot more information as we go through the budgeting process. Do you anticipate, and maybe this is a Kay question, that this would increase our time in doing the budget process, or
Absolutely not.
make it more, I guess I'm trying to see, if there's more information to consider, or does it clarify it in such a way that it might actually reduce our
I think it
debate
provides better analytical capabilities for the information that we would provide to council. In terms of the overall timeline, I don't think it would increase it at all. It would probably be about the same. But we would, just be able to, through some of the tools and the exercises we would go through the implementation, would be able to provide more information such as, a complete inventory of city services and programs, the cost of all those city services and programs, and a ranking of how well each of those programs and services align with the city's vision and mission.
I appreciate all this. This is a really interesting concept, and I've been talking to a number of other cities, other leaders from other cities, and a couple of state officials who have championed the zero-based budgeting, and they say this is a really good companion piece to make good decisions on that. So thanks for bringing that.
Councilmember DiPolito, do you have a motion?
Actually, I had a question before I have a motion.
Question, yes.
Mr. Luckett, this is a one-time expense, is that correct?
That is correct.
So we put together this program this year, and then we use it continually thereafter?
Yes, it would be a one-time implementation in terms of the work that we have to go through this initial implementation. Once it's been implemented, we would then be able to utilize the tools annually as we go through the budget process to evaluate new proposals, existing proposals, to bring a recommendation forward.
Okay, so we anticipate that our staff will be fully trained in this methodology at the end of this?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially you, I assume.
Right.
I think this is a really good idea, and I really like the approach of focusing on the individual services and really understanding what those individual services cost, because sometimes services can get buried within a department and you don't really isolate to find out what those individual things cost. So I think this is a great approach. and I recommend approval.
Was that a motion? Motion for approval by
Vote.
Councilmember
Move to approve.
DiPolito. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Further discussion. Councilmember Price.
It appears that we already have money in the budget for this. Does that mean that we approve this in concept in our previous budget, or how does there happen to be money available for this?
Kay, do you wish to respond?
Yes, and then Ryan, you can provide the details. Within the finance budget, there are contractual services funding for the items that may come up where we have outside consultants or contracts, and I don't know the total amount on that line item, Ryan, for this year.
I don't have the total with me tonight, but you're exactly right. It's basically for any outside consultants that we might need on a as-needed basis.
To augment our resources, it's a line item. In different years, we use the money in different ways depending on what initiatives or projects that we have going on. So we did not contemplate priority-based budgeting per se at the beginning of the fiscal year when the budget was adopted. We did anticipate the possibility of needing contractual services dollars.
Councilmember Price.
Just to piggyback on a comment that was made earlier about this dovetailing with zero-based budgeting. I know we've talked about doing zero-based budgeting in the past, which was completely shot down. So are we now embracing zero-based budgeting, or is that what this is going to lead us to?
It shares some of the same concepts as zero-based budgeting. It's not exactly the same. It's similar in nature in that, we look at justifications for programs and services. You're looking at past patterns of spending. It differs from zero-based budgeting in that it does connect city services and programs with the strategic planning of the city. So as opposed to just kind of accepting what was last year as continuing into the next year, it looks at, should we be providing this service to begin with? I think that's the main difference between priority-based budgeting and zero-based budgeting.
So the answer is we are not voting on zero-based budgeting tonight. We're voting on priority-based budgeting.
Thank you. I think that distinction was just made. I guess if I were to talk about a priority in my budgeting approach, it would be not to waste money in this fashion, and that we should be able to come up with this on our own. I know I've advocated for a budget committee among our citizens locally. I don't know that we need to bring in someone from Denver to tell us the priorities of Roswell, because we are Roswell and we've got our own priorities. So I would not be in favor of this at all.
Is my understanding they're not setting priorities. They're using this as a system to recognize our priorities and use that to influence the budget. And Katie, you want to add to that? Probably a better explanation than I just gave.
Yes, these are specific techniques and tools and strategies. They in no way dictate or even suggest what priorities. There are mechanisms and tools that allow us to be able to analyze these very objectively by ranking and scoring, and it's more of a three-dimensional way of looking at it and laying over that the priorities that the mayor and council have already set through a vision in our strategies, and then within departments we have goals. And within those goals, we have objectives of how we're going to achieve those goals. So the mayor and council at the beginning of the budget year many times give us some general guidance, or what we call budget principles. And this takes those and actually adds another dimension to them so that we can look at, and if the priority is a program that's inefficient, then that's fine. We can continue to fund it. There may be a very good reason. So unlike the whole zero-based budgeting thing, it's not driven only by the dollars and the amount of money. Sometimes there's a very good reason for spending more money on something because it is the priority of the city as compared to a lesser program or a lesser robust program.
Other questions? We have a motion and a second. Anyone in the audience have any comments? Yes, come forward, please, if you will give us your name and address. And just a reminder, we have a 5-minute time limit.
I can read the clock. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Janet Russell. I've been a professional travel planner for 35 years, and I agree with Mrs. Price. I've been not just selling travel for leisure. I have helped corporations and companies set up their T&E guidelines. As far as I know, the City of Roswell has no T&E guidelines for their employees who have to go to meetings or conferences. They just sort of point and click. There doesn't seem to be any control. And in this case, you're not giving these people any guidelines or controls at all. Here's an example. A friend of mine who is living in New Mexico now and is the president of a company bought his ticket online, and then he called me from Charlotte the other day because he got stranded. The flight was canceled. They couldn't get him out for a day and a half based on Delta Airlines. I could get him out within 2 hours to his destination, but the cost one way was $1,500 one way, a 2-hour flight. He bought it because he had to be there. You need to set, I didn't sell him the ticket, I did that to be nice. You need to set firm guidelines about how much these people spend, how much in advance they have to pay for it, what their per diem costs are, and if they exceed it, they eat it themselves. Otherwise, you are getting someone who's, and I deal with people like this, oh, I just couldn't decide today where I wanted to go tomorrow. And then they pay $1,500. Versus, we knew 2 weeks ago that this was our schedule and the flight is $241 round trip. So I agree with Mrs. Price, and if you people are opening your wallet to do that, then you need to examine how you spend your money. It's called priority basing.
Does anyone else wish to speak? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Councilmember DiPolito.
I think Ms. Russell raised a good point. Ms. Love, how do we determine how consultants are reimbursed? Do we have a specific policy in place?
We do not have a policy like we do for employees. We have a practice. So what happens is when the project plan is developed and we look at travel dates based on their schedules and our schedules for availability, they are scheduled out. Part of the contract provides for that scheduling to be agreed upon. So therefore, they wouldn't be deciding 2 days in advance of coming here unless it was something that we requested and we were agreeable for reimbursable. Some companies have a per diem, some reimburse up to certain amounts per meal, and all of that is worked out with each consultant, and they are all different. And with the priority-based budgeting folks, we have not worked out those details yet. That is part of the contract that we will work out should this be approved tonight.
So the contract will include the provisions for compensation?
Correct.
And the dollar...
That will be worked out based on the schedules because we don't know what those are yet.
And the dollar amount will certainly be within your capacity to approve.
Correct. And we would have to approve that. Those would actually be approved ultimately by Keith Lee, the finance director.
Any other comments before we take a vote? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That is Councilman Orleans, Eaglehart, Wynn, DiPolito, and Diamond in favor. All opposed. Councilmember Price opposed. Passes 5-1. This time we'll call upon liaison to the Community Development Department, Nancy Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I have a business relationship with the applicant on this first item, so I need to recuse myself and leave it with you.
Ms. Love, would you present that issue?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This item is RZ 2013-01671, 1270 Strickland Road, Larry Strickland, land lot 428. This item was deferred from September 11th meeting. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Kay. Mayors and members of the council. This afternoon we received a request to defer this item to the November 13th, 2013 agenda. This item is requesting deferral. If you want me to go through any presentation, I'm here for that.
Before we get to the presentation, what's the council's preference? Does any council member wish to hear it tonight, or would you have a motion for defer, and we'll hear from the public on that? Councilmember Wynn.
I make a motion to defer.
We have a motion to defer by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. At this time, if anyone in the audience wishes to be heard, I will hear from you. There will be a public hearing when the issue comes back to council. If this motion to defer is passed, On the other hand, you're here tonight, so if you wish to say something tonight, we'll hear from you. Yes, come forward, sir.
My name is Lars Lind, L-I-N-D. I live at 205 Alpine Drive here in Roswell. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for hearing me. Roswell's newly published 100-year floodplain map is placing my house within a few feet of the 100-year floodplain. And it's my understanding that this project will be placing a partial dam downstream. I'm a member of, or a former member of the, excuse me, Ms. Price.
Do we have a map and you can identify your property? Do we have that, or do we not bring anything?
I don't have a map with me.
No, I know you probably don't, but I think staff may have.
Well, we're not having a full public hearing. We want to hear from these gentlemen.
I just want to get in my mind where he lives
If you
in
could
relation to
give
the
us a
property.
description of where you lived. Across
I live across the creek and
Waller
3 or
Creek.
4 houses. This is Hogwaller Creek, sir.
Right. Well, I guess just for clarification, I am not aware of any dam across Hogwaller Creek that is proposed.
It's my understanding that a partial fill is going to be placed on this property.
All right. That would be, yes, sir, I understand there's been discussion of a fill, but that would not be damming up the creek.
It would not, but it would restrict the flow of any flood down Hogwaller Creek.
Yes, sir.
I'm a former member of the American Society of Civil Engineers and the American Society of Military Engineers. I was an officer with the Corps of Engineers, U.S. Army, and I understand floods and am well known for having prevented floods at Fort Stewart, which is near Savannah, Georgia. And I would like to know, is there any consideration for realigning the flood risk maps upstream from the partial dam that's going to be put in place? And I know for solving the upstream, I am known for solving that problem at Fort Stewart, and I'm pretty well aware of what restricted flows of floods do to an area, and would be available if the council would like to talk to me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate that input.
Chair.
Yes, sir.
In his comments, and I've heard questions about that, quote-unquote, filling in the floodplain, do we have somebody here tonight that's prepared to outline how that may or may not happen, to clarify some of the questions as far as
well, tonight I'm entertaining questions, but as far as the applicant's presentation, it wasn't my intention to go into the full presentation.
No, I didn't mean presentation.
We're getting beyond that now.
I just meant staff to talk about what...
Well, staff is not prepared at this time. I'm sure we'll have an input at that time. But we're not going into a full hearing. I wanted to make sure that folks who came tonight and wanted to make their comments would have a chance to make the comments. But unless this council chooses to go forward with a full hearing, I'm not going to ask to hear from the applicant. Councilmember Price.
I would just like to ask that prior to the next hearing on this subject that we have some information in our packets regarding floodplains and buildability and floodplains, et cetera. I tried to do some research on that. I was not successful in finding information. I know that Alice Wakefield mentioned the other day, and I don't know what exactly can and can't be done both federally and within the state. Thank you.
Does anyone in the audience wish to comment or have any questions tonight? Yes, sir. Come forward, please. Again, you'll have an opportunity to be heard again if this is deferred when it comes back.
Thank
Please
you, Mayor,
proceed.
Councilman.
Yes, sir.
I'm Richard Mays. I live at 285 Alpine Drive. I've got a floodplain map. This red area is Hogwater Creek, and all these are our houses on Alpine Drive. And you can see all the floodplain is on the south side of the creek, close to my house. Most of the flooding that comes over toward my house comes in below my house. But I've looked up impervious surfaces and water qualities, according to how many houses you build on some land, what it does to the water and the quality of water. And impervious surfaces like asphalt, the houses, how much water runoff you're going to have. And the more you put on a piece of land, the more impervious water flow you're going to get. Hogwater Creek gets so much water now from heavy rains that it really can't handle any more water. So we need to make sure that this floodplain is left alone, because if you fill in part of the floodplain on the west side, that's going to slow the water down coming downstream, and it's going to push the water this way. So I just wanted to say that so we can make sure all this stuff works out. I'm glad to see they're developing the land, but I think we're going a little bit overboard with it. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Does anyone else wish to speak? Yes, come forward, please.
My name is Shelley MacArthur, and I live in the same neighborhood. I've been up here for other things in the last year. I guess my question is, why is it being deferred? This is the second time that has happened, and it's the second time all these people have showed up here to state their case, which is why they seem to have all their paperwork with them. So if this is going to be deferred again, and I'm assuming that's a possibility for whatever reason, is it possible that that can be posted on the city website so that we know not to show up with all of our paperwork and everything else?
We would post it if, once we received a request, there would be a request for proposal. We could not post that it would be deferred until council had taken action, because I would not know whether it was being deferred until this council made a decision. As far as why it's being deferred, my presumption is there was an effort to try to resolve current issues to make the developers coming back with some changes. And my comment to the neighborhood is this property will be developed at some point in time as a vacant piece of property. To the extent that something can be worked out that would be acceptable to the community, if we didn't defer it and denied it tonight, it would probably be back again for a whole nother round of hearings, which would be even more meetings. So I guess the bad news is until this issue is resolved, you're going to have meetings, and I think trying to work it out at this go-round is better than trying to perhaps deny it and have it come back for a whole nother set of rounds. So it's being deferred because I think there are efforts to try to make make some changes that perhaps might make it more acceptable to the city and to the neighborhood.
Okay.
Councilmember Wynn wishes to comment.
Yeah, and just real quick, this would be the last time they can defer because of our timelines.
Okay.
And if they want another deferral, they'll have to start all over again. So this would be the last time that they can defer.
All right. Thank you. That does answer that question.
Thank you. I'm thinking, when's the deadline that they can? I think it's 60. There's a certain 65 days. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Other comments from the floor? We have a motion and a second for deferral. Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Price.
Now, if they come back with something like totally different than what we've seen this time, is that part of this process, or are we discussing only a conservation easement?
The application is for a conservation subdivision, so unless something comes through from the applicant, the application is for a conservation subdivision, so the parameters of that would be what you would be approving with the relief of the variances in dealing with that application.
So there's not a whole lot of leeway in different types of proposals that might come back?
It's not going to come in for apartments. It can't come in for commercial. It is a residential single-family home subdivision in some manner.
No, but can a proposal be made with utilizing the entire parcel of land?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions before we take a vote? All in favor of the motion to defer, raise their hands. That's unanimous. And wait a minute, deferred till when?
November 13th.
Deferred till November 13th.
Which is a Wednesday.
We've had our public hearing. It's deferred until November 13th. Councilmember Price.
There were some hands up. I don't know.
We have taken a vote. I did not see hands up when the last time I called for public comment. I apologize if I missed anybody, but we've made a decision. If you'll call the next agenda item. Councilmember DiPolito.
Mr. Mayor, my company has a business relationship or is involved with both the next two items, actually, so I need to recuse myself.
I understand. I'm waiting on her to open up her book.
Thank you, sir. The next item is RZ 201-301-672, CV 201-301-673, 2000 Holcomb Bridge Road, land lot 712, 713, Brian Malsoff, JW Homes, LLC. This item was deferred from September 11th, and Mr. Townsend is here to talk about it.
Thank you. This is a site plan amendment for the MPMUD zoning. The application is requesting that the variances to the setback, there is also numerous variances to the MPMUD requirements. This is the subject property, 27.9 acres, adjacent to Holcomb Bridge, Scott Road, Eves Road, adjacent to Centennial High School, the elementary school, Walton Development, the Kroger Shopping Center on Holcomb Bridge. This is the current zoning of the MPMUD section. You can see the current wonderful orange FCA around that, understanding what is being developed around that location. This application was originally approved in 2006. The application for the single-family homes is for 80 single-family homes, 29 townhomes, and 17,590 square feet of retail. This is the comparison from the 2006 development to the proposed 2013 development. You can see the tremendous reduction in square footage of office and retail. You can see that the original development did not have any single-family homes. It had townhomes and condos. It developed at a development density of 6 units to the acre. What's being proposed this evening is a development density of 3.9 units to the acre. This is the proposed site plan of the development, showing the layouts for the access points, roads, parking space areas, open space, meeting the stream buffer requirements also for the development. This gives you a cross-section of the road sections dealing with the setbacks and the heights. And this application was brought to the Planning Commission, which recommended approval of the site plan and the concurrent variances. Staff has recommended approval of the site plan amendment with the concurrent variances. This is the list of the concurrent variances related to the commercial development as well as the residential development, as well as the numerous variances to the MPMUD to meet the actual code requirements of MPMUD. This is the first of the 7 conditions for the development. This is 8 through 13 of the development, and these are the last 14 to 22. The only condition that I will bring up the Transportation Department that is being currently discussed with the applicant is condition number 13. Staff has proposed this originally for the developer to provide a landing space for a pedestrian bridge that would cross Holcomb Bridge Road. Staff's recommendation with the Transportation Department's concurrence that they not provide right-of-way, but they reserve right-of-way. So we would change the word provide in the first line to reserve right-of-way. And then the second line, after the word the, would put the word shall be reserved right-of-way. No, shall be reserved. After right-of-way, we put the word shall be reserved. These two changes are consistent with what the transportation is requiring for them to be able to have this in the future. If you have any other questions. I'll let Mr. Asenbrack speak to that discussion.
I'm fine with that, Mayor. Yes, sir. I mean, it's
We'll collect the taxes until we purchase it or get it dedicated. Right.
Okay. Phone, please.
Councilmember Wynn.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was going to ask Mr. Asenbrack before he sat down. On that same one that I was looking at, my concern on number 13 is if we say future pedestrian bridge, then we are locked into a future pedestrian bridge. Isn't there another wording, pedestrian crossing, something? Because if I say pedestrian bridge and we decide to do a tunnel or whatever else we do, then we're kind of locked in. We're being very restrictive.
Talking to the city administrator and Mr. Townsend, I'm sorry, David Davidson.
I would say pedestrian crossing.
We were going to say just public facility. I mean, or just a public amenity. I mean, it could be a variety of things, right? So it doesn't have to be locked into a bridge. It could be just there's a public purpose for us to request to reserve that space. The idea would be that it doesn't surprise somebody in the future, and my understanding in talking to Mr. Rollator today, it didn't actually have any commercial value anyway, so it's really not of any detriment to them to see a small area set aside on that area. There will obviously be some future negotiations, but it does not have to say bridge. It could say just public facility.
Well, I like to, to get with that wording before we take a vote, because I want to make sure what I'm voting on, and I will not vote for something that says future pedestrian bridge, because I think that's too restrictive.
All right, that's fine.
Good point.
Good point.
Other questions for staff? Councilmember Diamond.
Actually, Steve, you might be able to help me with this one. Number 9 on the Planning Commission recommended conditions was the owner-developer shall remove the proposed private drive D, and I don't see that on the final recommendation, and I don't see anything about where that went.
They took it out. They removed it from the plan you're approving tonight.
Who removed? Oh, the
applicant has removed that, so that's why they didn't.
I saw one on. So it came out after September 20th.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, and I do have a couple other questions. On the application, it shows Fulton County Water and Sewer shows the demand and of water and sewer. It doesn't really speak to, is that sufficient? Is there, it doesn't make a judgment on whether that's sufficient. It just says it will use this much.
That's all Fulton County provides to us. And, when we provide the site plan, they give us an impact of what would be required water and sewer-wise for any type of development. If there is an issue, we usually find out then. There's there's no more capacity of water or sewer. But if they do that, then we understand that there's going to be that availability for water and sewer for this project within their system.
All right. And Planning Commission, oh, sorry, this is also on the transportation. It looked like there was discussion of 50% of the light and intersection improvements would come from the applicant, and it seems to move to 15. Can you tell me how that happened?
I brought our traffic engineer extraordinaire, Mohammed Rauf, with us. Basically what we did was there is already a left turn bay there on Holcomb Bridge Road. Our analysis is that it is too narrow and too short. What we did was we did a little staff analysis of kind of a fair divvying up of what it would really cost. I think it would be unfair to say the applicant needs to pay 100%. I think it would be unfair for the city to pay 100%. So we basically just scaled it off and said based on the percentages of the traffic from their traffic study that the 15% ended up being sort of just a quantitative way to value a share.
Okay. So everybody understood that. I wasn't sure where 50% came from at Planning Commission. That's
where they started.
That was it, right?
Okay.
It was a starting point.
And along that same lines, I know we had this conversation a couple weeks ago about that intersection, and I'm hearing that it's not warranting, and I understand that consciously. It just feels like this really needs assistance. What is how close are we to that tipping point? And
I'm afraid we're not very close at all. I've had, Mohammed and I have had long discussions. In fact, the whole staff and I have gotten together on that. But maybe just to help you understand, I mean, it's based on turning movements and volumes, and if you really force me to sort of quantify that for you, we're about 10% of the way there.
Seriously?
Yeah. Even with this.
Well, and I mean, obviously this is a lot less stuff on that piece than it would have been under what's presently zoned, but it just seems so counterintuitive that all those units and all those schools and all that stuff, and maybe that's just a rush hour issue. I mean, are we measuring? We measure it at peak times, do we not?
Peak volumes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions of staff? Councilmember Wynn, is that a question?
Yes, sir.
This time we'll hear from the applicant.
Mayor Wood, members of the council, I'm Don Rollator, 11660 Alpharetta Highway, Suite 630, Roswell, Georgia. I'm here tonight on behalf of J.W. Homes, LLC, which is the John Whelan entity that proposes to develop this property. Brad has stolen my thunder. This development is practical. This development is also substantially less than what's approved for this project. We're not asking the council to rezone this property in any manner. We're asking them to approve a new site plan, and the Whelan entity is ready then to go into action and to provide single-family homes, townhomes, and one retail tract on this property. The staff has done an excellent job of the conditions, so we don't have any quarrel left with those, other than I want to undertake this condition about the 10,000 square feet for this proposed crossover, bridge, what have you. I want to give you our interpretation of reserve, and after our discussions with Mr. Asenbrack today, we're in accord with them. We don't convey any of the property to the city. We don't put a building or something hard on top of that particular area there. If and when the city decides that it wants to go forward with that project, the city would then come to us and say, this is definitely what we want, let's discuss it and do a deal. Our only concerns, so that you understand it, are twofold. Number one, that whatever improvement is proposed there in the future does not block the view or the access to the retail building that's going to go in that corner. And number two, that it not block or restrict the signage or the view of the signage to that particular piece of property. So other than that, I think you understand our interpretation. We haven't committed to any particular square footage. We haven't sold the city anything. We'll be paying the taxes on that property until you guys and the State Department of Transportation decide you're ready to manage pedestrian traffic in some manner over that bridge.
Then they would negotiate a price for that.
That's correct.
Would you all identify on this property where this is going to be? 10,000 square feet needs to be identified specifically because it may not be in the right place.
Right there. If you look at Brad's
Is that identified adequately in the application? Did we identify this corner?
We identified that corner, yes.
Okay. And this site plan's approved, so we're good enough.
Right.
And
That's
transportation provided us a general footprint that
Gotcha.
fit within that area, which was important to us.
If given his conditions, I think that would need to be included in this, in the conditions, the not blocking signage and not blocking visibility. That would need to be in here.
With not knowing the design, I can't imagine.
Well, I know Councilmember Wynn talked about any public amenity. Well, we need to have a clear understanding. Councilmember Davidson is saying we don't need to do it now because that might affect the price of the property, what it blocked. Ms. Rollator, are you comfortable with those conditions not being included at this time?
I'm comfortable with not including that language because we have an understanding with the staff and an understanding with the transportation
You're very
department
understanding.
about what we're getting into there. So I would tell you that I'm soliciting your questions and your input. We have reviewed staff's rendition of the necessary conditions. Those conditions with the change in 13 regarding the pedestrian area make those conditions acceptable to the applicant. We're encouraged about the development. We're glad to see something go in that corner. We're proud to be the ones that do it. And we'd like to answer any questions you have, but with that, we would reserve time for rebuttal and your questions.
Questions for the applicant? Councilmember Diamond.
And we're not approving the retail part, correct? Or the actual site plan of the retail part, isn't that being removed?
Yeah.
You're approving the square footage as well as the layout that they're showing with the 2 access points. You're not actually approving what's going in it or what the building looks like. That'll be a DRB approval.
I thought I saw they would bring in a site plan that removed that piece of it. I'll look it up.
Other questions? Councilmember Orlins.
And my understanding is we're approving a maximum 17,000 square foot building. They could come in with a smaller one without having to come back through with a site plan change or anything in the future?
Yes.
It just couldn't come back with a larger one?
Correct.
Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Eichelhard.
First, Mr. Rollator, you'll be happy to know I'm usually flipping out when so many variances are put in. But these are good ones because it actually reduces everything in there because it's always the concern about the impact, and this reduces the impact. So thank you. That's good.
You're welcome. Not often I get this opportunity.
I know, really. So bask in it. But my question was about the sidewalk, and I can't really tell on all these different plans on which one's which. But we've got the Holcomb Bridge, and we're going to have these schools, a lot of walking, but we're only putting a 5-foot sidewalk on the largest road in the city. Is there anywhere to be able to expand that? Have you guys looked at that at all? Or I can't tell what's on here whether or not there's any space to actually increase it more than 5 feet.
5-foot sidewalk.
I mean, it's what's required, but I'm basically asking if there's...
Let me let Mr. Asenbrack address that first.
There is a multi-use trail that goes along Eves Road.
Eves Road, right. I'm saying Holcomb Bridge as well.
Well, I mean, what we had... This is part of an extension of the Roswell Loop that goes across and up to Scott.
Oh, I understand that.
So Eves, the traffic, or say the pedestrian people going up Eves to the 2 schools was what we had envisioned. So.
And I don't disagree with that. I guess we're trying to do so much on Holcomb Bridge as well, and we just put the large the wide multi-use trail on the south side. But then we're only putting 5-foot sidewalks on.
Yeah, we don't have any long-term plans to put a multi-use trail along Holcomb Bridge right there.
No, but I guess just in general, trying to squeeze more than 5 feet there because it is such a large road there with kids on all sides and new library, all that kind of stuff. But that's why I really can't tell on the site plan exactly where that is and if there is any more space. If there's not, then it was just a question.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Rollator. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Yes, come forward, please.
Here I am again. Sorry, Janet Russell. I don't live near this project. It sounds interesting. I just have two comments. I'm really kind of concerned about that little piece of land, 10,000 square feet, that they're going to get to keep and then they're going to sell back to you when you want it. What's to restrict them from charging you whatever they want at that point? Because after developing that land, it's probably going to increase in value exponentially. Exponentially, and you will be held hostage by these developers. Secondly, I have a very vivid recall of a John Wieland project here in the Historic District where the city got hosed. I can give you all the details, but it'll take longer than 4 minutes and 25 seconds. The city approved a certain amount of building. It was a much smaller scale project. And John Wieland then acknowledged it and said, yes, we'll do it. Within 2 months, he said, oh, we can't. It's way too expensive. We need to add more lots to this property. So the city came back and folded and did exactly what John Wieland said. And one of my friends who happened to have been a vice president of John Wieland at the time said, John Wieland Homes never intended to build the project as they presented it. They were waiting for you. So I have a real bad taste in my mouth for John Wieland Homes, and believe me, they know the price of a pound of nails that goes in their house. They're not known as America's Fine Home Builders for nothing. So I would advise you, not as a professional transportation person or a building person or anything else, but as a person who shops. You better set a limit on the value of that piece of property or you're going to be hosed in about 5 years.
Anyone else wish to comment? Any rebuttal by the applicant? We have a motion and a second. Further discussion by council? No, we don't have a motion. I'm sorry. Do we have a motion?
Yes, sir. I would move to approve the said site plan with amendment with concurrent variances 1 through 4 as presented by staff, and to allow for residential and commercial development located on Holcomb Bridge Road, Scott Road, and Eves Road with the following conditions, 1 through 22, with 13 reading, the owner-developer shall reserve 10,000 square feet of right-of-way for future public amenity as required by the Roswell Transportation Department. The reserved right-of-way shall be shown on the preliminary plat, the land development permit, and the dedicated at the time, that's not right, we're not dedicating, sorry, and reserved at the time of final plat for any portion of the development. That is
we have a motion by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Further discussion? Councilmember Eichelhardt.
Just one thought along those lines. That, I don't know if the applicant would have any interest, but if we did set a price that based on this what it is, if we exercise that within 5 years, that it would be paid this amount, because it's correct that property value is probably going to go straight up as soon as this is built. So is that something that we could look at?
It's something we could look at.
Of course. Let's go further than that. Is that something we could put in there?
That would require an amendment to the motion. If you wish to amend the motion, you can propose an amendment.
Then I'll propose an amendment that we set the price based on current valuation, which would require a survey, I suppose, and a valid valuation. And have the ability to exercise that price for, look at Mr. Rollator, but...
So appraisal, you mean?
An appraisal, excuse me, yes.
So would you approve, so the site plan would be conditioned upon a negotiation and a price being set under your motion? There's a motion to approve a site plan. Yes. You've placed a condition upon it. I presume under your because we have not negotiated anything, and we're voting on it tonight, it would have to be a condition to say that if we didn't agree upon a price, then we wouldn't have a deal.
Right, that's why I didn't really want to come to throw that in for sure, but it's something to look at to try and determine that, because I think it's reasonable to consider that. But we don't know, it could be 10 years before we...
There are a lot of ifs in here. You know, it's looking at it's different than making it a condition.
Inflationary, whatever.
Yeah, I do hate throwing things in the last second, but I think it's a valid point.
Is there a second?
I didn't really make a full motion, but...
I do have a comment. My understanding is this project is about 13 years out on our plan, and it costs about $2 million that has not been appropriated. So I mean, I understand where you're going. I'm just not sure how we get there, especially if we're putting a time limit in there.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
Are you withdrawing your motion?
Never mind. Yeah.
Never mind. Motion withdrawn. Councilman Orleans.
I mean, if I understand things correctly, we would have an appraisal at whatever time we're going to buy it, and they're going to agree to the appraisal. If they don't agree to the appraisal and they want to hold us hostage, we could then revert back to eminent domain, which we really don't like to use, but we would do it on a base appraisal at that point in time. So that would be my understanding, Mr. Davidson. Would you think that's about logical?
That would be correct.
So I think it would work out for us either way without having to try to come up with something now.
If y'all weren't so agreeable, I might have been able to squeeze it out of him and twist his arm, but you're too agreeable. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion? Passes unanimously.
Next item is RZ 201-302-434, 2550 Holcomb Bridge Road, the Providence Group of Georgia, LLC, Mike Smith, land lot 782. Mr. Townsend.
This is an application in the other MPMUD zoning that we have within the community on Holcomb Bridge Road. This applicant is requesting to change conditions of the original approval. The conditions they are requesting to change are conditions number 1 and 38, which relate to the site plan and the square footage of the townhomes that are being proposed. The action that's really taking place is the site plan was originally approved for 50 townhomes. It also included, what's being proposed tonight includes a retail building that was not built, which is about an acre in size. This is the existing zoning under the MPMUD for the townhouse location. They're looking to increase the 50 units to 62 units, change from the 2,400 square foot of living space to 2,400 square feet of living total, including the garage. That is a clarification of an existing condition that was placed on them when they were rezoned. This is the proposed site plan for the development. As you can see, the majority of them are rear-loaded garages that would face out of the development. Then there are interior ones that have front-loaded garages. Staff would recommend approval of the proposed change. The Planning Commission recommended approval. This is the proposed 4 conditions of the development, if you have any questions.
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember Orleans.
Mr. Townsend, as we have discussed on some previous occasions, and a direction on townhomes to try to have the garages recessed from the front plane of the house 5 feet. Has that come up in this discussion, or should we let the applicant address that?
The garages were really with single-family homes that were detached. There's never been a discussion to recess the garage on a townhouse. It was usually when they were being rezoned to RS9 and they were detached units in which we did not want the garage forward of the development. You have these units, you have buildings that are, 8 or 9 of them that are attached together. The exterior of the development, there are no garages facing that. The only garages that are facing the street are those interior to the development.
Right. I know they were just the ones interior.
To my knowledge, we've never discussed recessing townhouse garages.
Okay.
Councilmember Eichelhardt.
Are we assuming that any visitors will park in the sea of parking in the
There's actually
side?
3 or 4 spots that have parking.
I'm not seeing it.
I don't have another site plan.
I just don't see any on here.
I guess the question was parking.
Maybe you guys can answer it. Well, particularly for visitors is the question.
2 parking spaces in each driveway and 2 parking spaces in each garage.
There's no additional required parking spaces. There's 2 in the garages, and there's 2 in the driveways.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Price.
In the proposed UDC, what is this designated as, and what would be allowed there? Would this project be allowed under that?
I believe that section was going to be neighborhood mixed, and townhomes would be an approved use under that designation. I think all of the MPMUD sections were proposed for neighborhood mixed. But I think since you have adopted and approved a site plan for the other site earlier this evening, we're probably going to set that designation as a residential and make the retail section neighborhood mixed to make it consistent with what you've approved tonight.
Other questions? Councilmember Orleans.
So what we're losing from the original site plan was the
16,000
village
square feet.
atmosphere along the left, I'm looking at the map anyway, the left side of the road that goes in.
You're losing a commercial component along that portion of the 16,000 2-story retail office, yes.
Which loses the village atmosphere for that street with the roundabout and everything. That
Well,
was
I
going
think
through.
actually the townhomes create a better village because it has activity of people coming in and out their front door.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Diamond.
Brad, again, on the Fulton County Water Resources, it just says not applicable. Is that because the development had?
I think they
Sewers
already
coming?
had them reserved as part of the last approval.
Okay. And I noticed on the Planning Commission, there was no move or no call for public comment and no,
I don't think there was anybody there.
okay. And to the point about the UDC, I know there is some green space requirements, and we've talked about, well, maybe there's not in townhomes. That's what we've been talking about adding.
Right.
So there's no, can you give me a sense of that part in the middle? How much of that, is that community green space?
Well, I'll let the applicant
Okay.
talk to that when he
Okay, yeah,
gives
I think
his
that's all I
presentation.
have on, for you.
Other questions of staff? Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
At this time, we would like to hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Mike Smith. I'm here representing the Providence Group of Georgia. What I did is I put up the original approved site plan to try to further clarify what we're changing. There you go. The commercial component on the northwest corner of Champions Green Circle there. Was originally a commercial, it was originally a mixture of office and retail, approximately 25,000 square feet. It was split about 13 and 12 between the two. When we got involved with this project, one of the first things we ran through several different site plans, but one of the things we did not like was not having an identity for our project, the residential component. And we have some very nice looking rear entry product that would front that parkway, which I'll show you here in a minute. What we think we ended up with is a having a much more prominent look fronting the parkway, and therefore giving the residential piece its own identity within this mix. This is the product. This is actually a perspective we had drawn to give you an idea if you were standing in Champions Green Circle there, what you'd be looking at. That's kind of our front door to the residential piece of the mixed-use project. It's a rear entry product, 3-story product, mixture of brick, and also to Mr. Orland's comment about recessing garages and so forth. All of these products have a 2 to 4 foot offset. So these, as these units go along, they stagger back and forth to give you that additional depth perception, which is, I think, one of the things you guys are trying to accomplish with the UDC. By anytime you can, we're doing the same thing with the front entry product internal to the project. Anytime you can give additional depth, it makes it for a much better looking product. Does that maybe answer better as to what our thought process was as far as that change? And we feel like it's an enhancement. We've been through both Planning Commission and DRB, and both bodies like this product better as an overall mixed-use development.
Any questions? They're awful quiet. Maybe they're happy. If not hearing any questions, I'll have you a chance to respond to any comments from the audience. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? I think we're ready for motion. Any last words?
And the only last thing I'd like to say is the 2,400 square foot living space was just a clarification.
Thank you, sir.
That's it.
Do we have a motion?
I have a quick question first.
Quick question.
I don't see our usual clause about the number of lots not being guaranteed. Is that not something we want to have in here, given stormwater and life in general?
Stormwater was handled as a whole of the development in the complex, so the part for the commercial as well as the 50 townhomes included that, so there shouldn't be any other stormwater issues.
So staff is comfortable with that number?
Yes.
Okay. All right. In that case, I would make a motion to approve this project with the following conditions. 1 through 4 that staff showed earlier, which I can read out if you want, since there's only 4. No? Okay. Which includes that commercial plat that was leaving that I was looking for on the last one. So that is my motion.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion? Passes unanimously.
Next item is approval for the mayor and/or, oh, sorry.
You may proceed. Rich can hustle on up here.
Approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with Winter & Company to develop the Unified Development Code design guidelines in the amount of $79,855. Ms. Wakefield is here to talk about that.
Thank you. As was stated, this is a request to approve a contract with Winters & Company to complete the Unified Development Code design guidelines. The design guidelines are basically the second part of the Unified Development Code process. We had 3 companies to bid, and Winters & Company was the most responsible bidder at a cost of $79,855. In addition to the design guidelines, that includes illustrations, photographs, diagrams. It also takes into consideration streetscapes, landscaping, and the LID related to stormwater. So it will be a very comprehensive set of design guidelines. And with that, staff would recommend approval.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DePolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise.
One minor thing.
Yes, Council.
In our work session, we mentioned the timeline, but just for the record, for the public meeting, can you go again on the timeline that will follow for getting the guidelines in place?
Well, we will finalize the schedule for the design guidelines once we're in a position after tonight to talk to Winter & Company. We will make sure that schedule coincides with the Unified Development Code.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any further discussion before we take a vote? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes. That's Councilman Orleans, Councilmember Eichelhart, Councilmember Wynn, Councilmember DePolito, Councilmember Diamond in favor. All opposed? Councilmember Price, are you voting? Councilmember Price abstains. Passes with a vote and 5 in favor, with 1 abstention.
Next item is approval of an amendment to Chapter 10.3, Occupation Taxes, Article 10.3.4A1 of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances. This will be the first reading.
Okay, thank you. As was stated, this is the first reading to amend Chapter 10.3 of the Occupation Tax, and the basis to clarify the payment for the business renewal. The current regulations require that the business pay $100 for one employee and $5 for each additional employee thereafter. This often creates confusion. We spend a lot of time doing a year chasing $5. Either we get $5 less or we get $5 more. So we think with this amendment to change that to $95 plus $5 for each employee will make it a lot clearer for those businesses when they're renewing their license. And staff would recommend approval of the first reading.
Does the council have any questions for staff? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve first reading.
Oh, we need a first reading.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 10, Occupation Taxes, Article 10.3.4A1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following amendment. Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Chapter 10, Occupation Taxes, Article 10.3.4.A1 shall be amended by deleting said section in its entirety and replacing said section with a new section to read as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference. If approved, this is the first reading.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve first reading.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Diamond. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Orleans. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Orleans.
Ms. Wakefield, I just wanted to say I think this wording is clearer than what we were talking about at committee meetings, so thank you for adjusting.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll call upon our Transportation Department liaison, Councilmember Betty Price.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 13, approval to adopt the update to the Transportation Master Plan, which was deferred at the September 23rd meeting. And due to some ongoing questions in this, and I've spoken with Department Director Hazenbrack today, and that there's some things that are not up on the website for people to look at, and a few items that apparently some council members had questions about. So when I review all that information, I will be back with a recommendation on this item. So I would move to defer.
Motion to defer by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Any further discussion? Yes, Councilmember DiPolito.
When would the deferral be until?
I think Councilmember Price said once she was prepared to bring it forward. I don't think we had a date.
No date at this point. Okay, thank you.
This is not particularly time sensitive, so we will not tarry, but we will get it back soon. Thank you.
Motion to defer to a date to be determined by Councilmember Price, second by Councilmember Orleans. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll hear from our city attorney, the Honorable David Davidson.
Thank you, Mayor. First item I have today, I had a conference call with our attorney representing us in the lost negotiations and lawsuit. As you all have probably read in the newspaper, the Georgia Supreme Court issued a ruling that declared the baseball arbitration provision of the local option sales tax unconstitutional because it allowed a judge to decide on the distribution of taxes, and that's a legislative action. GMA, along with several attorneys and city and county attorneys, have been in discussions with the AG's office, with the Revenue Commissioner on the application to entities that have already filed a certificate through negotiations that lasted, or that started actually, or finished after the actual deadline for the lost expiration. The Revenue Commissioner has requested that each county and the cities within the counties that have reached an agreement refile a new certificate with them prior to the order of the Supreme Court becoming final, which would be Thursday. I just got this resolution at about 6:45 tonight, so I apologize for the lateness of it. But basically, I'm asking you to ratify your previous approval of the mayor signing the certificate with the exact same distribution that we approved in September. Therefore, if necessary, we will be able to submit that to the Revenue Commissioner per his request.
To approve. Motion by Councilman Aguilar. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
And the next item I have is closure to discuss personnel, real estate, and litigation.
Do we have a motion for closure?
Motion.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We're adjourned. Boy Scouts, I'm proud of you. You hung in there the whole meeting. It's a record.
Hey, David, do you have a resolution for them to sign on loss? We can get them to do it in closure. And then does that mean the mayor has to go down and sign the thing at GMA with Andy?
I'm just getting him to sign it.
Okay, and then let them go?
I'm going anyway.
Okay, well, we know they'll get you to sign it. Thank you, Tim.
They want to see my bow tie there.
Well, that's the city of Atlanta.
City of Atlanta.